There is something strange happening inside the human brain that almost nobody openly talks about. You can be sitting in a quiet room, doing nothing wrong, with no obvious crisis in front of you, and suddenly your mood just drops. Not because your life is falling apart, not because something terrible just happened, but because your brain quietly slipped into a stress pattern without you even noticing it had begun. Your phone does not fix it. Scrolling through anything does not fix it. Even the most inspiring video you come across sometimes does absolutely nothing to change how you actually feel deep inside. And the most unsettling part of all is this: most people believe they need to completely transform their circumstances before they are allowed to feel better again. They think the solution is somewhere outside themselves, waiting to be found. But neuroscience shows something far more surprising and far more empowering than that. Your brain has the capacity to shift its emotional state within seconds, if you understand how to interrupt the pattern correctly. Today we are going to walk through 3 psychological switches, grounded in real and well-researched brain science, that can rapidly change how your nervous system responds to stress, negativity, and emotional overload. And the third one is the most important of all, because it teaches your brain to build forward momentum rather than waiting indefinitely for motivation to show up on its own. Stay with us until the very end, because each switch builds on the one before it. Let us begin with something fundamental that most people never think to consider. Picture 2 different people moving through the exact same difficult day. Same relentless pressure bearing down on them. Same exhausting problems. Same emotional weight sitting heavily on their shoulders. One of them stays locked inside that bad mental state for hours, circling the same dark thoughts, unable to find a way through. The other recovers with surprising speed and is able to move forward with something resembling clarity and energy. What is the actual difference between these 2 people? It is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not that one has a better life than the other. The difference lies in how the brain interprets the physical signals coming from the body in the very first moments when stress arrives. Emotions are not simply caused by events in the world around you. They are shaped continuously and in real time by how the brain reads and processes the signals your body is sending upward through the nervous system. Once you learn to work with those signals deliberately rather than passively, you gain something most people never realize they have access to: the ability to change how you feel, not by changing your life, but by changing the information your nervous system is receiving right now. So here is the first switch: the breathing reset. When most people feel stressed, they immediately begin to breathe differently, without ever consciously noticing the change. The breath becomes shallow. It sits high in the chest, rather than dropping down into the belly. It becomes rapid and tight, and the exhale shortens until barely any air is actually leaving the body. Here is the critical piece of information. Your brain reads that pattern of breathing as a signal that danger is present. The vagus nerve, one of the longest and most important nerves in the human body, runs from your brainstem all the way down through your neck and into your chest and abdomen, connecting your brain directly to your heart, lungs, and gut. It is constantly listening to the rhythm and depth of your breathing, and it reports back to the brain about what the state of the body appears to be. When breathing becomes slow and steady, research has confirmed that signals travel through the vagus nerve into the parasympathetic nervous system. Scientists call this the rest and digest response, and it is the direct opposite of the fight or flight alarm state your body enters during stress. Studies from Cleveland Clinic, Mass General Hospital, and multiple published research reviews confirm that slow, intentional breathing activates the vagus nerve, reduces circulating cortisol levels, lowers heart rate, and begins to dissolve the physical architecture of the stress response. Try this right now, wherever you are. Take one slow breath in through your nose, aiming for about 4 to 6 seconds. Hold it gently for just a moment at the top. Now exhale slowly and deliberately, making the exhale longer than the inhale. Notice what happens in your body. Your shoulders may soften slightly. The speed of your thoughts may begin to settle. That is not imagination or placebo. That is your nervous system receiving a direct and concrete signal of physical safety. You are not pretending to feel calm. You are biologically creating the conditions that make calm physically possible. Most people wait for the stress to disappear before they allow their body to relax. But the body has to come first. Change the physical signal your brain is receiving, and the emotional state your brain generates will begin to follow. Now let us move to the second switch. Because sometimes the real problem is not the stress itself in the moment it occurs. It is the thinking that keeps circling around the stress long after the original moment has already passed. Your brain replays a conversation from earlier in the day. It starts constructing detailed scenarios of things that have not yet happened and may never happen. It bounces between regrets about the past and anxieties about the future in a loop that feels impossible to step outside of. This is where the second technique becomes genuinely and deeply useful. The observer effect. The moment you feel emotionally overwhelmed or caught in that circling pattern of thought, pause and quietly say to yourself, in plain and specific language, what is actually happening in your mind. This is anxiety. This is frustration. This is overthinking. This is fear. Simple, plain words. But the effect on the brain is far more significant than it appears. Neuroscience research from UCLA, led by psychologist Matthew Lieberman and published in 2007 in the journal Psychological Science, found something remarkable when researchers placed participants inside brain imaging machines. When people put their feelings into simple words, a process called affect labeling, the brain showed increased activity in the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. Simultaneously, activity in the amygdala, the brain's central threat detection and alarm system, was measurably reduced. The more the logical and regulatory prefrontal region came online, the quieter the emotional alarm became. This is not a theoretical effect. It showed up consistently across multiple studies and has been replicated and built upon by researchers in the years since. By naming what you are feeling, even in the simplest possible terms, you shift the brain's processing from reactive emotional mode into a more observational and analytical mode. You stop being fully inside the emotion. You begin observing it from just outside, as if watching it rather than drowning in it. Think about the difference between standing in the very center of a severe storm versus watching that same storm through a window from inside a warm room. The storm is identical in both situations, but your relationship to it, your experience of it, and your ability to think clearly within it are completely different. Labeling creates that distance. Distance reduces emotional intensity, and the brain genuinely struggles to fully panic while simultaneously analyzing and naming what the panic consists of. That interruption is enough to break the cycle and create space for something else to enter. Now bring both of these switches together and notice what is already happening. Your breathing is sending your nervous system a message that the physical environment is safe. Your naming of the emotion is sending your mind a message that you understand and can observe what is happening. Already the stress response begins to soften at its edges. But now we arrive at the third switch, and this is the one that completes the picture. Because most people carry a deeply held misunderstanding about how happiness and motivation actually work. They believe happiness arrives after achievement. They believe motivation has to appear first, and that action logically follows from it. But this is not how the brain is structured. The brain does not reward waiting. The brain rewards movement, not perfection, not enormous, sweeping, life-changing success. Just movement. Any movement. The tiny action trigger. Decades of neuroscience research on dopamine have revealed something important about this neurotransmitter. Dopamine is not simply the brain's pleasure chemical, as it is so often described in popular language. Research has consistently shown that dopamine is more accurately understood as a driver of motivation, effort, and goal-directed action. It is released not only when a reward is received, but when the brain detects that progress is being made toward a goal. Even a very small completed action is enough to initiate this response and begin shifting the brain's motivational state. So right now, wherever you are, do one extremely small thing. Sit up a little straighter than you currently are. Drink a glass of water. Open the task or project you have been avoiding. Pick up one object near you and place it where it actually belongs. Write the first single sentence of something you have been putting off. Take one physical step in a direction that matters to you. Anything. The size of the action is almost irrelevant, because the moment you complete even the smallest action, your brain registers movement. It detects forward progress, and that detection begins releasing dopamine, which in turn creates a measurable shift in your energy, your sense of focus, and your feeling that more is possible than it was a moment before. This is exactly why beginning is so consistently the most difficult part of anything. It is not laziness, it is not weakness. It is simply how the brain's motivational system is structured. Once movement begins, the brain begins actively working to support more movement. The system that felt completely stalled starts generating its own energy. But most people sit and wait to feel motivated before they allow themselves to act. That direction of causality is entirely backwards. Action creates motivation. Motivation does not create action. And this approach works during almost any difficult or depleted mental state you find yourself in. Feeling stuck? One tiny action. Feeling emotionally hollowed out and drained? One tiny action. Feeling completely unable to imagine starting anything at all? One single tiny action in any direction. Your brain responds to evidence of progress. Even progress that seems microscopic to you is meaningful to the brain's reward and motivation systems. Now picture this entire sequence unfolding in a real moment of your life. You feel genuinely overwhelmed by something. Instead of spiraling further inward, you slow your breathing deliberately for 30 seconds. You say quietly and honestly to yourself what you are feeling, in plain and simple words. You complete one small action, however tiny, and you register that it is done. In less than a minute, something in your brain chemistry begins to shift. Not because your life transformed in those 60 seconds. Your circumstances are exactly as they were before, but because you sent your nervous system 3 specific signals it needed to receive: safety, clarity, movement. That is what these 3 switches really are, beneath all the science and all the complexity. 3 messages your brain has been waiting to receive, and 3 ways you can send them deliberately and intentionally, instead of hoping they arrive on their own. People who regularly practice these kinds of nervous system regulation strategies, slow breathing, emotional labeling, and consistent small action taking, develop what researchers call higher vagal tone over time. Higher vagal tone is associated in the scientific literature with greater resilience to stress, faster recovery after difficult experiences, and more stable emotional well-being across the full arc of a person's life. This is not about forcing a false sense of positivity when things are genuinely hard. It is not about pretending that your difficulties do not exist or do not matter. It is about understanding that your brain has specific and identifiable needs when stress arrives, and learning to meet those needs with intention and precision rather than waiting passively for the feeling to eventually pass. Your emotions are real, but they are not always permanent truths about who you are or what your life is. Very often, they are temporary patterns moving through a nervous system that has simply lost its footing for a moment. And patterns can be interrupted. With practice, they can be interrupted faster and more completely each time you try, until the recovery becomes almost automatic. So remember this the next time you feel the mood dropping, for no reason you can clearly name. You do not need a perfect life or a perfect set of circumstances in order to feel better right now. Sometimes your brain simply needs the right signal, sent deliberately from you. One slow and intentional breath, one honest and simple moment of naming what you feel, one tiny step forward into anything at all. That is all it takes to begin shifting the pattern. Because the kind of inner stability that actually lasts is not always something you wait for or stumble into eventually. Sometimes it is something you choose to activate.